I'm at 3720 Corkwood Drive in Dayton, Ohio, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that may be of concern to the buyer. You can see the clean out we're going through here. This is the front of the house. And clean out here, there's actually a PVC just to clean out resting over top of the original cast iron. And so I was hoping that we would be able to go both directions from here, but it looks to me like this is a sweep. It's going to force me to go downstream. So it looks like this would mean that there's cast iron in the house. Which would probably mean it switches over to clay pretty quickly. So we won't be able to inspect the interior piping just because of the limitation here at this clean out. Most of the issues we find are outside. We do know that the interior is cast iron, which is something that you can't really gauge a life expectancy on. Cast iron does rust. It's just a known issue. It does, it rusts can be rusting from the inside and the out. So there's been very, very new stuff that if the pipe material is bad, it rusts through pretty quick, and then there's stuff from the 40s that's still in great shape. So just kind of a disclaimer there with cast iron, because you never really know. One thing I do want to mention with cast iron is you don't want to use wet wipes anyway, but it's much worse on cast iron, because when it rusts, it creates little burrs on the pipe, and it can very easily catch those wet wipes. And wet wipes do not break down like toilet paper. Toilet paper will disintegrate when underwater. That's what it's designed to do, and the wet wipes do not do that. You can test that by running some toilet paper and some wet wipes underneath the kitchen or bathroom sink or something like that, and just watching how both react, and you'll be able to obviously see the difference, that the toilet paper will break down, the wet wipes will not, and that they can very easily cause backups. So I'm going to push all the way out to the main, and then hopefully we'll be able to rinse the camera off here better. Usually you can see better on the way back anyway because of that. You're not pushing stuff up in front of the camera as you go. And I tried to remove and clean off the lens once I went through the cast iron, just because that little bit of cast iron before it exits into clay. Cast iron, when it rusts, it has like a black residue that comes through, and it's almost like liquid charcoal. It gets all over the place. So far, in the spots that I've seen pretty clearly, I haven't seen any structural issues, which is always good. A big thing with clay, which this is that there's usually there's seams about every 3 to 4 feet, and so what happens is over the years the packing in the connections breaks down, and then starts allowing roots into the line. You can see it looks like some groundwater getting in at this connection at 72 feet. And so it's not a major issue. Structurally everything is in place, and it's right there at the tap, so it's not a problem at all for the homeowner. That is the tap onto the main, which just means that it's a. So we're going to try to go back through here. So if this ever does cause an issue or sinks or anything like that, this would be on the municipality to fix. This is like right at the connection, as you can see. Once we go past where that water's falling in, you're looking into the sewer main. And so it's really nothing to report. I will probably put it on there at 73 feet that there was some groundwater intrusion, and that's what that white stuff is. It's calcium, basically calcium deposits, calcite, that allows, or that just leaves a residue as that water comes through from the ground. So as you can tell, we can see a lot better on the way back, so we'll try to go slow and take a look at all the connections. The good thing is, even with the tree in the front yard, that I didn't see any major root intrusion or anything on the way out. A little bit of, looks like disintegrated toilet paper on the bottom of the pipe. This could just mean that the line's really flat. It's not holding any water. But I don't know if the house is occupied right now or not. I have no clue. Could just be that nobody's been in it for a while to flush the line out. But it's probably grease more than anything. A lot of times that white stuff is grease. That can come from the obvious places like the kitchen sink and or the dishwasher, but also it can come from the washing machine when you use fabric softener. It has a lot of this, the oils and grease and stuff in it, and it can leave that white residue on everything. That's most likely what all that is. So we have a little tiny bit of root intrusion there on the left. It's not a concern. It's nothing you can really do about that right now. But it's something you may want, and there's a little bit more, like the roots are starting to get in. You could try to put a chemical down there, like a root X or something, and that would help to keep them at bay. But you probably got a pretty long time before those grow anymore. You probably got six months to a year before you would need treatment, at least. So what I am going to recommend is that you do another inspection in a few years, just to kind of get a look at all this and to check to see how fast those roots are growing, because you do have a river birch right in the center of the front yard, and so if it finds this, it's perfect. You get food and basically you get fertilizer and water all in one place, and so trees love sewers. So again, I would just want to check that in a few years, another scope, and just to kind of check to see how fast those roots are growing. It is common to get roots, like I mentioned earlier, in clay. It does require some maintenance. There's permanent fixes such as liners and stuff like that, but most of the time the easiest course is to just treat with some chemical. Every 6 months, a year, usually a year is good enough to put some of the root X down there, and it foams up. You put it down before you go to bed. It should catch on any of the roots and then burn them back. It doesn't kill the tree, it just kind of burns back the roots a little bit. As you can tell, I've pulled all the way back out of the clean out. And so, yeah, with the little bit of roots that are in there, a treatment now wouldn't really do anything. You'd be lucky if it caught on some of those. They're so minor. But it is something you want to pay attention to for obvious reasons. You don't want those roots to get big and then they can cause a backup. A lot of times the level it's at now would take quite a while, a number of years, for those roots to get big enough to start causing an issue. But it is something you do want to pay attention to, and maintenance when needed. A lot of times those scopes, after a while, you do one after a few years, kind of gauge how fast the roots are growing, and gives you an idea of how often you want to do those maintenance. If you are doing some chemical treatments between now and then, you may find that the root intrusion hasn't got any worse, and you could continue with the chemical treatments and not have to do any cleanings. But again, this is normal for clay pipes. They are about 4-foot sections, like I mentioned in this case, and the packing breaks down. Since you have so many connections, it only takes a couple, and the roots get in there, take hold. You just want to make sure it stays light, and you keep treating it and or maintaining it so that the pipes aren't damaged from the roots. You don't allow the roots to grow huge and thick and everything, because then they can start damaging the pipe structure. But right now, I don't recommend anything be done immediately. The line is open and flowing. We obviously couldn't get the little bit of cast iron that is inside the house. I did mention about the not using wet wipes, and so other than that, the line should be good for normal use for the foreseeable future. It's open and flowing at time of inspection, so that'll end the inspection at 3720 Corkwood Drive in Dayton, Ohio.